This video is brought to you by Paperlike. The 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro is special, with an asterisk. I am putting the asterisk on the word special because in order to feel that specialness, you need to pay extra for some things. The tablet alone is great, don't get me wrong, but if it's not used to its potential and also partnered with some other tech, it is nothing more than just another iPad. Throw in some necessities like a decent keyboard and the Apple Pencil and things are starting to become more magical. But if you add an iPhone 12 or iPhone 13 and AirPods Max or Pro into the mix, and you might end up holding on to your hat because you'll be blown away by what the Liquid Retina XDR display in combination with spatial audio can help you experience. Consuming immersive and rich content, however, is not just it. Having the iPhone 13 mini, for example, will not only allow you to consume amazing content, but also to create such. See, the iPhone 12 and the newest iPhone 13 too being able to record in Dolby Vision HDR in combination with this very mini LED iPad Pro means that you can now have a complete HDR creation workflow package. Let me give you a perspective. If you want to record HDR content, the high dynamic range that all TV manufacturers are raving about, you need a professional camera that can support, for example, hybrid log gamma or HLG profiles. Without burdening you with details that you might not be interested in, I'll just say that the bodies of such cameras without the lens usually start from around $2,000. Being able to record HDR, however, is not enough if you want to work with such type of content and most of all, edit it. Throw in a $1,500 monitor at least and you can begin to play with the awesome possibilities of HDR. Are you getting my point? With the ability to have the cheapest iPhone mini in your pocket and the 12.9-inch iPad Pro for the price of just the body of an entry-level HDR-capable camera, you don't need to invest in complicated tech that you might be intimidated by. To prove a point, this entire video was shot on the iPhone 13 in Dolby Vision HDR, and if you have the ability, I'd ask you to switch to that HDR format in order to see that vibrancy of the potential and the darkness of everything else that is not HDR. That's right, once you start enjoying HDR content or by accident you stumble upon one, you might at first be shocked at how bright light areas are and how ridiculously vivid and punchy all the other colors are. Even while watching HDR content in a smaller window on the iPad, I'm still amazed at how everything else is too dark and gloomy. That is thanks to the Liquid Retina XDR technology that made me ditch my favorite 11-inch iPad from last year. This mini LED display with 2500 local dimming zones and 10,000 mini LEDs delivers million-to-1 contrast ratio and full HDR support, making the black truly black and everything else to infinity bright, that much more rich and beautiful. So having the iPhone and this very iPad might be enough, unless of course you're like me and you go for the cheaper storage option of 256 GB. If that's the case, you will require to work off external storage, but don't worry, because with the upgraded USB-C Thunderbolt port, the M1 iPad provides 40 GB/s speeds, which is plenty to work off directly from any fast SSD, and even use professional hubs to turn the iPad experience into a pro-level studio desk setup. I mentioned the AirPods Max earlier because of spatial audio. That to me is the ultimate spice that turns the 12.9-inch iPad Pro into a masterpiece of a recipe. I recently watched a movie on Netflix that is called The Guilty. The entire movie is carried by the acting of a single person, Jake Gyllenhaal, and besides the brilliant acting, it relies heavily on the visual and audible aspects that can really tingle your sensations and emotions. I experienced it at home, at night, in the dark. I had the iPad and the AirPods Max, and I'm telling you, it was more immersive than being at the IMAX theater. The uniqueness of being alone in your cozy environment and having no one else around you, in combination with the visual and audio quality of XDR, Dolby Vision, and spatial audio, is truly breathtaking. My iPad setup is very simple this year. I decided to omit the Magic Keyboard purely because of its weight, and I went for the keyboard folio instead, which I dressed in a skin. The next companion is of course the Apple Pencil, and that's pretty much it. I do carry a Magic Mouse in my sling bag for when I want to do some precise work, but I try to keep it light. I don't often carry my AirPods Max, also because the AirPods Pro support spatial audio as well, and they're still a great lightweight choice, by the way. Oh, and there's also another inconspicuous accessory that I have been installing on all my iPads the last few years, and that's Paperlike. The team at Paperlike are kind enough to sponsor this video, but even before we partnered, I've been a user of their product for a long time. Paperlike is a matte-like screen protector that does three things really well. First off, it protects the iPad from the elements. As a person who's allergic to even micro scratches, protection is something that keeps my mind at bay. Besides protecting though, the next key feature of Paperlike is part of the brand's name. If you use the Apple Pencil, it makes your drawing, writing and sketching experience as close to Paperlike experience as possible. Third, and I love this part, is something that I call goodbye fingerprints. Paperlike ships free to most countries worldwide, and in the package you get 2 screen protectors and all the accessories to make your application process effortless. Be sure to check out the first link in the description below to grab your Paperlike today. So if you got to this point, you might be thinking that this is a remarkable device. But let me tell you that not everything is sunshine and rainbow with this iPad Pro. If we're truly honest and we take a step back from the HDR display, the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro turns again into a pumpkin, and it is starting to look a lot like any other iPad out there. In fact, with the recent iPad mini and the regular iPad hardware upgrades, even the wide-angle center stage camera is no longer something unique to this very expensive tablet. If the M1 is not utilized to its maximum, which in many cases it isn't, if the work being done on it is just regular email, browsing, meetings or anything else, the iPad is like any other iPad on the market. Also, the alternative of getting an M1 MacBook Air or Mac Mini or any other entry-level Apple computer makes this larger iPad Pro look like a very expensive tape measure. Expectedly, it snaps back really fast, but at the end of the day, it's just a tape measure. Sure, like even with the smaller 8GB RAM model like I have, the memory seems to be enough in 90% of my use cases. The OS doesn't have to drop any apps or reload them. This results on apps being instantly ready to be used in the app switcher. But honestly, I haven't yet met someone that might be using the 2020 or even the 2018 iPad Pro model that would complain of it not having enough resources to complete a work-related task or an iPad OS game or something else. I also haven't heard of anyone bragging about the older Pro models having bad displays, wanting something more. See, if you're not deeply into the Apple ecosystem and you're not surrounded with all the other Apple accessories that I mentioned earlier, and you just want a tablet that can work as any other tablet, the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro is a total no-go. It has such power reserves and potential that I struggled, in fact I couldn't find a real way to bottleneck it. That really begs the question of the iPad Pro and its evolution. It is a fact that Apple's overall strategy is to keep the iPad separated from the Mac world, but the iPad having its current workflow and certain limitations begs the question, what is there to ask more when it comes to the performance of the iPad? Think of it this way. We wouldn't want smaller bezels on the tablet because that would make it difficult to hold or operate on. We wouldn't really need more from a display that already has 1000 nits of sustained brightness, 120Hz refresh rate, and unmatched picture quality. We wouldn't really need more power than what the M1 has to offer in its form factor with the current software limitations. So what is there to expect in the 2022 iPad Pro, this being already such a polished or at least complete device? There is a silver lining though. This truly amazing iPad Pro will be an older model in next year, and that beautiful display will slowly start to turn into the status quo of the new models, which means that few years down the road, almost everyone will get to enjoy the specialness of this M1 iPad Pro technology. But for now, you might be better off with any other iPad from the lineup. If you enjoyed this video, you might find my iPad playlist useful. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to list them in the comment section below or ping me on Twitter. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is Z, over and out.